watching Executive Exchange here on Moneyweb TV, and I'm talking to Kwazi Mabaso. He's the CEO of Grindrod. Kwazi, let's start with the announcement from Transnet. I know this is one that you've been waiting for, so I want you to unpack it for us and what it means for Grindrod.
Now, thanks, Bronan. Exciting times for Grindrod, for the region as well. I mean, finally, we've signed the rail access agreement, which gives us that ability to run our own trains on the Transnet network. I think for Grindrod, we're targeting the corridor that enables our port and terminals businesses because we see rail as an enabler, as Grindrod, and now we're going to have that ability of enabling our port and terminals. We applied for 2 slots on the Northeast Corridor, 2 slots that will be moving coal from the Wheatbank area to Maputo, and we're very strategic in applying for these slots. We didn't go for 30 slots or 40 slots. We only went for the 2 because we still want to test the network. We still want to know how you're going to have 12 train operating companies traversing the 41 routes of Transnet network, because this has never been done before, Bronwyn. It's still new. So a measured approach is what we undertook so that we get the understanding of what it will feel like to run on the Transnet network, knowing that there's a backlog maintenance of, I think, the network statement that was released in December 2024. It said there's about 14 billion rand in the next 5 years of the backlog maintenance. And on the Northeast Corridor, where we got the slot, I think it's about 1.5, 1.4 billion rand for the next 5 years, the backlog maintenance. So knowing that there's a backlog maintenance, it was very important for us as Grindrod to go in cautiously using the rolling stock that we already have. We already have those 4 locomotives that will be required to run the 2 slots. We already have the 50 wagons that will be required to run those 2 slots. But in the next coming years, once we start running the trains, it's then going to give us the ability, number 1, of understanding the state of the network. Number 2, to understand the operating model that is required on that network. And then it's going to give us the ability of then planning for medium to long term in terms of ramping up the slots that we're going to be running, and also the investment that's going to be required if we need more rolling stock for us to run more trains medium to long term.
With this exciting journey ahead, Kwazi, what do you think people most often misunderstand about Grindrod and the business model of today?
I think people still look at Grindrod from a legacy lens. They think Grindrod is still a shipping company. We're no longer a shipping company. We are a pure logistics company that specializes in port and terminals infrastructure. We are also able to be providing logistics a platform for our customers. But what is a market differentiator for us is that we are able to provide an integrated logistics solution to our customers. I mean, there's this old adage that says logistics supply chain is a team sport, right? And within that, Grindrod touches multiple areas within the logistics supply chain. We are in a truck brokering, we are in a clearing and forwarding, we are in now in the railway space. We're also in the ships agency business. We are in the stevedoring business, but our flagship is within the port and terminal business, because we say as Grindrod, we want to be in an infrastructure-led business, an infrastructure that cannot be easily replicated, which is the port and terminals. And that is who Grindrod is today.
You must have had your eye on what is happening globally from a logistics perspective, and
Yes.
this is obviously being reshaped by geopolitics. We've got infrastructure constraints, supply chain resilience. How have those
Yeah.
forces been influencing you over the last couple of months and shaping perhaps your strategic priorities, Kwazi?
Bronwyn, the macroeconomics, geopolitics have been unforgiving, and they've affected everyone. We are also not immune to that. We are moving commodities that are susceptible to that. The coal, the chrome, the magnetite, they are affected by the macroeconomics. But what we as Grindrod have really been focusing on is to continue on our strategic intent of providing an integrated logistics solution that is cost effective and efficient. And having all these multiple touch points, it actually helps us to create that element of, I'll say, stickiness with our customers, because you are able not to provide one solution, but it's an integrated, so that you are able to have, I'll say, for the lack of a better word, a loss leader within that logistics supply chain, while making sure that the overall solution still makes sense for the business. But the environment, I would say this VUCA environment, the volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous environment, has forced us to remain disciplined in our capital allocation. It has made us to focus on execution. We are very execution biased. We want to get things done, not to only talk about it, but also these macroeconomics, they've actually built resilience in our business. We've seen in 2022, when there was a Ukraine war, the coal prices increased, and yes, there was a lot of volumes uptake in our business. A similar incident with the Middle East crisis, we expected the same uptick on coal prices. It didn't happen because the global economy has also started to build resilience in their makeup.
You mentioned earlier the capital allocation, and
Yeah.
I suppose it gets incredibly tough when you
Yes.
are navigating this
Yeah.
uncertain economic environment. Can
Mm.
you give me a little more insight into how you are making capital allocation decisions given the uncertainty?
I think, as I've said earlier on, for us, capital allocation is a disciplined approach. Um, we're not just gonna allocate capital on projects or initiatives that are not aligned with our strategic intent. It has to be corridors that are aligned to our integrated strategy. It has to be in infrastructures, businesses that cannot be easily replicated, and in this case, it's a port and terminal businesses. Also, the logistics aspect of the opportunities that exist, we see it as an enabler to the port and terminal business. So the approach is discipline, capital allocation, focus on projects that will talk to stay in business, the existing business that are giving us annuity. Secondly, if it's growth a project, it has to be project that are in line with our integrated corridor strategy. And obviously, as a business, we have to have that consistent dividend policy, that where we give the money back to the shareholders.
Yes, certainly shareholders always looking for that money back. But if I look at the ports, the infrastructure, railway constraints that are top of mind from a South African news flow perspective, and are possibly also top of mind for investors and exporters,
Mm.
what is your view on how we are actually progressing from that perspective, and where do you still see significant bottlenecks?
I think for me, we must commend, especially the Department of Transport in fast tracking the private sector participation, and also the reforms in the country. We're seeing it. I mean, we are now part of the 11 new train operating companies that have been announced. We also were able to be given a 25-year concession on the Richards Bay container handling facility. So all these things are encouraging. And I think for us, what's important is that all these decisions they have to be sustained, so it has to become law. Reforms they have to become law. Can't be just, something that is driven by a department, so that even if there's a change in political power, these reforms are sustained. And I think one of the areas that specifically the government or even Transnet will obviously focus on is the state of the rail network. I mean, the previous network statement has already mentioned the backlog maintenance that exists. So with the new private sector coming in, we expect that backlog maintenance will be addressed. But on top of that, even the normal day-to-day network, rail network maintenance will be done, because as private sector will be bringing rolling stock, will be also getting new rolling stock on the network. It's important that the state of the rail network is really upheld going forward.
Kwazi, how do you think shareholders should look at your earnings with all of this volatility out there? Can they get to a point where they are confident in sustainability of earnings?
So obviously, when you look at the short-term events, Bronwyn, I mean, we're coming from this Middle East disruption, so it's eventful. But when you look at the investment case of Grindrod, Grindrod is investing in long-term assets. Our investment in Mozambique, for example, the government of Mozambique has extended our concession to 2058. So Grindrod is a long-term investment. There will be short-term gains, but whoever that wants to participate in a Grindrod story is an investment case that is long-term. Because even the type of infrastructure that we are actually getting into, which is a port and terminals, it is long-term.
There's a point that I like to ask CEOs because I think it gives us great insight into your management and leadership style. What is the metric that is most important to you when it comes to Grindrod? What do you focus on, Kwazi?
I think I'll say what I've been focusing on because I've only been in a role for 6 months, right? So for me, I think in the last 6 months has been to listen more from the people, and also even from some of the key stakeholders. And secondly is to understand the strength of the bench that I have. And luckily for us as Grindrod, we've got depth when it's come to people, but it's been very crucial for me to reinforce that, to make sure that we've got the right people built for the purpose that we are now embarking on, which is the growth phase that we're embarking on as Grindrod. So the bench strength, the people that we have within the business, reinforcing that. I mean, there's an old adage that says, we mustn't bet on a horse, you must bet on a jockey. So you can have beautiful infrastructure, you can have all this equipment, but if you don't have the right people, you're not going to win the Durban July, right? So for me, that has been the focus really over the last 6 months, ensuring that I've got depth in terms of the management team, ensuring that we've got the right people.
And are you confident that you do have depth and breadth and the right people?
I'm very much confident. I think we are very ready for this next growth phase as Grindrod.
Let's get a little bit more personal. What do you feel? You mentioned you've been in the hot seat for the last 6 months. What do you believe that this leadership role has demanded of you personally over this time that you didn't potentially anticipate?
I think more of stakeholder engagement. I spent, I think, the whole month engaging the investor community, doing the road shows. We even hosted some of our investors in our flagship investment in Maputo at our Matola terminal. And I think that has been something that is new for me, which is exciting because you get to explain or even showcase the business to people that are interested in us. And we've even seen the outcome of that, where some of our investors had a new appreciation of Grindrod based on the engagement and based on the site visit. So that has been exciting. That is something that when was ill, still focusing on the operational, maybe didn't think that was something that is important, the stakeholder engagement, especially the investor community. And it's been exciting to be interacting with them one-on-one and also hosting them in Maputo.
There isn't one CEO who's sat in this seat in terms of executive exchange who hasn't given me a sense of how technology is changing the landscape within which they operate. And I need to put it to you, obviously you're asset heavy in terms of the model for Grindrod itself. But is technology changing the way that you do things?
So, I mean, our strategic intent is to provide an integrated logistics solution to our customers, which is cost effective and efficient. Technology helps us in the efficiency aspect of the business. Customers want visibility of their cargo. Technology helps us the great deal. I mean, you look at our terminal in Matola, they have it has a nameplate capacity of 7.3 million tons. Last year, it achieved 9.9 million tons. And it was purely because of continuous improvement initiatives that also included some of the technology which was implemented in our weight bridge, how we handle our trucks to improve the turnaround time so that you can have more throughput using the same stockpile footprint. So certainly that is something that we are leveraging on as Grindrod to improve on efficiency so that you can have organic growth without capital intensive investment in our operations.
You must have mapped out different timeframes in terms of hurdles you want to achieve as CEO. But perhaps give us a picture of what Grindrod looks like 5 years out if you land all of those initiatives that you've currently got in the pipeline.
Grindrod is a purpose-driven company. Our purpose is to make a positive difference in Africa's trade with the world, touching lives of the communities where we operate. For us, by providing that integrated logistics solution, we want to see the trade corridors of Africa competing with the other trade corridors of the world. We want to see the farmer that is exporting their fruit having a lower logistic cost because they are using Grindrod. We want to see a coal miner or a chrome miner reducing their logistics cost because they are using Grindrod. And we want I think the cost of logistics is now 18% of our GDP compared to the world standard of 11% of the GDP. So our cost of logistics are very high. So as Grindrod, if we want to make that positive difference in Africa's trade with the world, which is our purpose, it's when we help the farmers, the chrome miners to lower their logistics cost. And if we achieve that as Grindrod, then we have met our purpose of existence.
Kwazi, final question. What keeps you awake at night?
What keeps me awake at night? Geopolitics, but I need to focus on what's within my control. And Grindrod has done well over the past years to weather the storm, to still deliver consistent results despite the macro challenges. And that's what one will continue doing, focusing on what's within our control.
Kwazi Mabaso, who is the CEO of Grindrod, here on Executive Exchange on Moneyweb. Thank you so much for your time.